We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford. A city where they can do more than just struggle. And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism, to stop mass ICE agents from deporting our neighbors, and to govern our city as a model for the Democratic Party.
In a stunning upset, 33-year-old Zohran Mamdani won last night's Democratic primary for New York City mayor. Final results won't be official for several days, but his win has sent shockwaves through the Democratic Party. Mamdani spoke to supporters late last night.
If this campaign has demonstrated anything to the world, it is that our dreams can become reality. Dreaming demands hope. And when I think of hope, I think of the unprecedented coalition of New Yorkers that we have built. For this is not my victory. This is ours.
For more on his win and what comes next, we're joined by Errol Lewis. He's political anchor for Spectrum News, New York One, and host of the Inside City Hall program. Errol, welcome back to the NewsHour. Good to see you.
Great to be with you.
So this is being called a New York City miracle, a political earthquake. Mamdani went from being a little-known state assemblyman to taking down the former New York governor, Andrew Cuomo. How did he do it?
Well, that's what we're all trying to figure out today. But the short answer is that he represented a new generation. He's less than half the age of Andrew Cuomo. He's a relative newcomer who has a lot of newcomers' problems, meaning it's hard to pay the rent in New York City. It's hard to get the cost of living under control. And he proposed some very basic, very straightforward solutions that a lot of people really like.
I'm not from New York. I don't live in New York, but I have been living for Zohran Mamdani. I am so happy that he won the primary. And personally, I think this is a win for ranked choice voting. Because I support that pretty much across the board. I think that ranked choice voting is a good way for everyone to. It's a much better version of the popular vote, in which everybody gets to rank what they want. I personally think it's going to be it should be the way we go forward as a voting system across the board. Personal opinion of mine, and then I see this as a win for the more progressive parts of the Democratic Party. I hope that this galvanizes a shift in the Democratic Party to lean into its more progressive places, because there are a lot of us that want more progressive change across the country. And so for Mamdani to, win the primary and hopefully go on to also become mayor of New York City, for this to work on a local level, which it's not just any local level. It's mayor of New York City, and New York City could be a state on its own, quite frankly, just with its influence and with the amount of people that are there. So, big ups to Zohran Mamdani. I can't wait to see what you do.
Zohran Mamdani won. He won the primary and it wasn't even close. Before we get into it, a few of you have accused me of mispronouncing his name, and I have not. I know it is Mamdani with an M. I am aware. Sorry if you're not hearing it that way, but I'm saying Mamdani with an M. I think maybe some of you were just lashing out at me because it's natural to do with somebody on the left. Like, you can't handle that we might have actually won. So it's like you're glitching and looking for microaggressions and something to be mad about. I come from a family with very unique names, and so it always is matter to me to get it right. I'll always try to pronounce people's names correctly. And if I get it wrong, I'll correct myself. But like in this case, I know I'm saying it with an M. Anyway, I have been watching the live coverage, and I've been tweeting, and oh my gosh, the copium on Twitter is actually hilarious. I have so many thoughts and I'm trying to organize them, but just a few off the top of my head. Number one, shout out to Brad Lander. He really came through and showed solidarity and how to be a surrogate. Like, seriously, if Elizabeth Warren had done this in 2020, we wouldn't have had Biden as president. I am so glad that we seem to have learned from 2021 when the progressives and the left did not get their shit together, and as a result, it empowered Eric Adams. This time, they did not do that. Brad Lander really came through. So seriously, shout out to him. I'm also so proud of my fellow New Yorkers for not falling for it. They spent so much money and did so much propaganda through all of their media arms. Between the Zionist propaganda rags like the New York Post or the so-called liberal New York Times, they did nothing but run smear campaigns on him. The billionaires spent so much money and New Yorkers did not fall for it. I'm so proud of us. Man, Jessica Ramos, you're looking real embarrassing right now. You sold out every principle you said you have and you didn't even get ranked. I also want you guys to remember all the sellout Democratic hacks in the party that endorse Andrew Cuomo knowing what a corrupt creep he is. And it's important to remember all the cretins that did endorse Cuomo because they didn't do it because they like him. They did it because they hate the left. People need to learn though from what Brad Lander did. He was a big part of it and he is Jewish, and as a Jewish person, it made it harder for all the hysterical cryiness to sit there and lie on Zohran Mamdani's name about being anti-Semitic when somebody who was Jewish had cross-endorsed him and was calling bullshit on that. Sorry guys, my fake teeth, it's like hard to talk. Any hoodle. I know there are some nihilists and some haters right now, but you are not going to take this moment from me, okay? I am so excited. It is really nice to be hopeful, like for a change. Like I have not felt this hopeful in a while about politics. There are a lot of racists that are freaking out on Twitter, specifically like right-wing racists and Zionists that are like, oh my gosh, everybody, if you're in New York, pack up and leave. All the billionaires and shit that are threatening to leave, girl, bye. Like seriously, leave. No one's gonna miss you. The fear-mongering is not working. And all the Zionists crying about how you're gonna leave and how it's unsafe for you here, let me tell you something. New York City has the largest Jewish population outside of the Israeli regime in the world. And you know what New York City did? They just elected the first Muslim mayor ever in New York City. He is the first immigrant mayor. He is the first South Asian mayor. He is the first socialist mayor. And he is the first Muslim mayor who ran openly as a supporter of BDS and not kowtowing to the Zionist lobby. That is a big deal. That is something to be proud of. And there are a lot of racists right now, particularly right-wing racists and like right-wing media that are like, oh my gosh, can you believe that they elected a Muslim mayor 25 years after 9/11? Actually, I can. New York is an incredibly diverse place, full of amazing people. So yes, I can believe it. I'm gonna have so much more analysis tomorrow once I kind of like dig through the crosstabs, but there is a narrative that the Democratic establishment hacks try to push that says that anybody that runs on a DSA or Democratic Socialist or progressive platform can only appeal to white people. That they only appeal to white people in New York. Bullshit. The coalition that Zohran Mamdani put together was incredible. It was incredibly diverse. And it's funny because I think that Andrew Cuomo thought that he was just going to be able to take New York for granted because of his name recognition, the fact that he was governor for 11 years, the fact that he is from a political dynasty. Like, he really had a huge advantage over Zohran. And he really took black New Yorkers for granted. He took New Yorkers in general for granted, but he really thought because of all the like high profile black endorsements he got that he was just going to cruise by. But you know what? The support wasn't as overwhelming as people thought it was going to be. Just like surprisingly in Long Island, he didn't win as big there as people thought he was going to. It's a new day, bitch. As Hassan Piker said, it is white boy jihadist summer here in New York, bitch.
This person did not win because he's a Muslim, but he won in spite of being a Muslim. And that is a civilizational victory. The campaigns launched against him explicitly brought in Islamophobia. There were websites that were calling him a jihadist, a stealth, this and that. The most vile, blatant Islamophobic tropes were being used publicly against him. And still, he won. And it is a sign of integration. It's a sign of civilizational strength, but it also presents its challenges. Many Muslims are wondering, how can a Muslim be a mayor when they're going to have to do things that are morally ambiguous? Sometimes our biggest critics are not from without, they're from within. And this requires an internal conversation. Politicians are not clerics. And it is high time the Muslim community to differentiate a politician from a cleric. It is a very positive sign that the two most cosmopolitan and most prestigious cities in the Western world, London and New York, have Muslim mayors. They weren't elected because they're Muslim, but they were both elected in spite of being Muslim in the Islamophobic climate, which means they weren't just highly qualified, they were so highly qualified that they overcame the odds of being a Muslim. That is a very positive sign, and we should welcome and be thankful that this is a reality.
Yeah, who are you going to vote for?
Oh, Mamdani, yeah, because he represents a progressive, vision for the working class and a change from what hasn't worked in this city. And I can't speak for you, but I'm not a Cuomo fan.
Donald Trump would go through Mr. Mamdani like a hot knife through butter.
I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in.
I'm going to probably vote for Mamdani because the New York Times recommended him and Bernie Sanders recommended him. So I'm a New Yorker.
Voting for Mamdani because he aligns with a lot of my principles and what I stand for, and I think he's going to make the city a lot better.
I'm voting for Scott Stringer. I just like his attitude on dealing with Trump.
I do not like him at all. I do not like his ideas and his policies, and I get a very egoistic energy and entitled, self-important, and not realistic or hands-on experienced leader. I know Cuomo's had his issues, and I'm all for the Me Too movement, and it's unfortunate when those things happen. But as far as the big picture, I want someone I know.
We really need a refreshing change in the city that, we haven't seen in years. And he's our man.
Positions on stage were chosen by random drawing. Few rules for the candidates for traditional.
So thank you so much for being here.
Andrew Cuomo just conceded the New York City mayoral race, meaning Zohran Mamdani is officially the Democratic nominee for the New York City mayor. And I hope you understand what a big deal this is. As someone who's not even living in New York, this is huge. Andrew Cuomo had universal name recognition, a $25 million PAC backing him, and a litany of institutional endorsements. And he lost to the Muslim socialist. The socialist who proposed free universal childcare, city-run grocery stores, free bus services, and freezing rent on rent-stabilized units. And the only candidate who chose not to support Zionism and the State of Israel. This is indicative of a huge culture shift in America, one that is turning away from unilateral support of establishment Democrats, turning away from blanket support for the Zionist state, and the push for socialist practices in the U.S. They tried the age-old American scares with this man, saying he's a jihadist and he's a communist and he's bringing both of those things to New York. And look what happened. Welcome to the Islamic Republic of New York, y'all!
Here are 3 lessons progressive candidates should learn from Zohran Mamdani. 1. Have straightforward, easy-to-digest policies that directly address the everyday economic anxieties of working and middle-class folks, instead of insisting on the theoretical underpinnings of socialism or lecturing about American foreign policy mistakes, a common temptation many leftists have here in America. Zohran focused on what actually affects voters' lives. As we saw from the overwhelming reactions last year to the scandal allegedly involving Luigi Mangione, Americans all across the political spectrum are desperate for solutions aimed at the economic pressures they feel every day. Accessible, affordable healthcare, for example. By promising fast and free buses, no-cost childcare, cheaper groceries, Zohran offered something that felt urgent, especially at a time when trust in the Democratic Party has hit a low. 2. Don't center your platform on identity politics. Zohran's proposals were universal, meant for everyone, regardless of racial or ethnic background. He talked about freezing the rent for every rent-stabilized tenant, about universal childcare. In many of his speeches, Zohran would mention nurses, janitors, and bus drivers as the folks that have suffered the mismanagement of New York City the most, jobs that folks from any background have. When he did invoke his identity as a Muslim immigrant, it wasn't to claim some sort of special knowledge only reserved to him for being a member of a marginalized community. He used it to defend himself from Islamophobia, from the Cuomo campaign mostly, or to directly challenge Trump's xenophobia. Now, this doesn't mean that Zohran dismissed the importance of diversity. Far from it. We all saw his joyful video celebrating Eid Mubarak and his Spanish language outreach, including the video where he recognizes his last name is hard to pronounce for some and says that's okay with him. He treated diversity as a value, something that exists and must be celebrated, not as a checklist or a series of corporate-friendly speech policing policies. And 3, run a campaign rooted in hope. Not fear, not resentment. He didn't sound like an elitist asking voters to protect a fragile status quo the way Kamala did during her own presidential run, nor did he go the route of negative populism, pitting working class Americans that identify one way against others that identify differently. He built a positive populist coalition. He brought together students, union workers, everyday New Yorkers that have been disillusioned with politics for a while around a clear and energizing message: make the city affordable for everyone. Of course, Zohran didn't do this alone. The tens of thousands of people that canvassed for his campaign, that donated to his campaign, were essential to his victory. But this shared work, this awareness that was spread, wouldn't have been as impactful without the strong message that filled the people that went out to vote in the Democratic primary with plenty of enthusiasm. And that's it. That is why I think Zohran won, and that's what I think many leftist Americans should learn from his style of politics, which perhaps is also a style of teaching, to find more success in the polls in the near future.
The real joke during this whole New York City mayoral primary debacle that we just witnessed is that Republicans in the same breath will shit on Mamdani for having, quote, zero political experience while he currently sits in a political office and has gotten quite a bit done while in that political office. And they will shit on Democrats for being single crazy cat ladies, while their candidate, who currently ran uncontested in the Republican primary, is Curtis Sliwa, who has never held political office in his life, is over twice Mamdani's age, and it lives in a single-bedroom apartment with 16 cats. 16 cats, 1-6. That alone should give you pause. I love cats as much as the next person, but 3 cats is enough for one apartment. Like, what the fuck do you need 16 cats for? Like, toxoplasmosis has entered the chat. I'm so genuinely confused. Like, that's the best person that you can come up with, and you have the nerve to shit on the Democratic candidate? Please. He's also a self-proclaimed vigilante. Like, you guys hate that shit. What are we talking about?
Regarding Zohran Mamdani, I have this to say. I know that you guys are not this fucking stupid. All of the people that are spewing this disgusting, bigoted, hateful, Islamophobic bullshit, I know that you're not this stupid. Right? Because saying shit like, there will be another 9/11 in NYC and Zohran Mamdani will be to blame. I know that you can't, like, saying shit like this. Who was the mayor in 2001? Was it a Muslim? Now a Muslim socialist is on pace to run New York City in relation to 24 years ago, a group of Muslims killed people on 9/11. What's the relationship here? Did it take a Muslim mayor to facilitate 9/11? I'm old enough to remember when New Yorkers endured 9/11 instead of voting for it. New York City has fallen. What do you mean voting for it? What do you mean voting for it? What is Mamdani being Muslim have to do with 9/11 exactly? Are you insinuating that because you believe that it was Muslims who did it, that all Muslims are looking for an opportunity to do a 9/11? Is that what you're saying? Because I know that that's not what you mean. Because I know that your daddy does a lot of business with the Saudis. Are you guys doing business with terrorists? So does your daddy being president mean that there's going to be another 9/11? You know how else I know that you guys are full of shit and that you don't actually believe that Muslims are bad, inherently bad, or bloodthirsty? You know how I know? Because Iran agreed to a ceasefire, even though by all accounts, they could drop 1,000 bombs a day and keep this going for years without running out of anything, okay? And they chose to exercise restraint. If they're so fucking bloodthirsty, if they're just looking for an opportunity, why'd they agree to a ceasefire? I know that you don't think that Muslims are inherently bad, but you guys continuing this bullshit, just so that you can justify your forever wars there's not a word. Muslims have shown you time and time again that they're not bad people. And yet, you will sit here and say that because a Muslim might become the mayor of New York, everyone better brace for impact? Every single school shooter has been a white boy. We should probably keep the white boys out of politics.
Here's the big breaking news. New York City mayoral race update. The household name, Andrew Cuomo, has conceded to the Democratic Socialist, Zohran Mamdani, in a stunning, like, come from behind of this person who was way behind in the polls. Like, everyone thought Andrew Cuomo was going to win, probably as a couple weeks ago, but then, as fate would have it, that does not happen. So you never know what's going to happen. You can never count anyone out. So it appears that Zohran Mamdani has won the primary, at least for now. We will see if Andrew Cuomo is going to run in the general, but not a good showing for Andrew Cuomo here in New York City. Details as we get them. Another update on the breaking news story.